were born in 1997 and became best friends when they were 6. Grew up together and started a band and bonded over music ever since. 20 years later, they are all grown up and spend their free time analyzing lyrics. Now here they are talking all about their Lord and Savior, Dr. Taylor Allison Swift. Taylor, if you're listening, we love you.
Welcome to Swift Lore Podcast, where we dive in lyrics and lore of our Lord and Savior, Dr. Taylor Allison Swift.
Absolutely, that is why we are here.
I'm Kat.
I'm Abby.
And today we have a very exciting guest, one of my favorite authors, Megan Collins. She has written some really, really great thrillers. I'm like, do I just list them all? Yes. The Winter Sister, Behind the Red Door, The Family Plot, and Thicker Than Water. And she has another book coming out next year called Cross My Heart that I am so excited for. This was so exciting to have her on.
She's a huge Swiftie too.
Huge Swiftie. She was so excited to talk about Taylor Swift for an hour, as we are every week. So like kindred spirit for real. But yeah, it was so fun talking with her. So I feel like we'll just
let's just roll that clip.
Welcome to Swift Lore, Megan Collins. This is so exciting.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Megan and I have followed each other on TikTok for a while, and I saw one of your TikToks last week about the hourglass pedestal shape in the TTPD vinyl. And I was like, why have we not asked Megan to be on Swift Lore yet? This is crazy.
Because I have crazy theories, but then apparently everybody was like, oh, there's a different shape in each different kind of vinyl. So your theory that it's a pedestal that she's saying, don't put me on a pedestal is wrong. So I was wrong. But that's part of being a Swiftie is having wrong theories. People are so I don't know, like so easily so ready to do theories and then so easily offended by any theory that isn't theirs in our little Swiftie-verse.
Yeah, and we come across that a lot with interpretations of songs too. We have people tell us all the time, like, oh no, it means this or it means this. It's like, well, it means all the things, actually.
Yeah.
So.
And then we've gotten like one or two comments. It's like, actually, it's not that deep and you're just reading into it. I'm like, yeah, welcome to our podcast. That's what we do. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I mean, she though has taught us to be this way. And because I was talking to my husband about like how now people are saying that maybe she's going to come out with a next chapter of the anthology because there's a Roman numeral 3 in the logo, and how I thought that theory was ridiculous until I noticed the 3 in the logo, and I'm like, oh no, I'm scared. And my husband was like, do you think that like she's ever just looking at these theories people have and just like laughing her ass off, like that people are thinking these things? And I'm like, but she taught us to be like this.
The 5 poles in the fence will haunt everybody forever. Especially like Taylor Nation reposted it. It was just like, come on guys, are you looking for Easter eggs? And it's like, why would you do this to us?
It's like, what's that line in Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, where she's like, I am who I am because you trained me?
Yeah.
Like, that's us.
That's all of us reading into everything. Like she's spotted near something orange. Everybody's like, karma's coming. Karma is real. Do you have any favorite like really crazy theories that you know aren't real, but also what if they were? Like I love the karma one as a rep girly.
I mean, I do. There is a part of me that thinks that if there's the idea of another chapter of this anthology is really crazy, because 31 songs is already so much, and she's already getting heat for that, which I think is really annoying in terms of critic reviews. But then again, it's not crazy because she's so prolific, and I could see her doing that. And there is the Roman numeral 3 in the logo. So it's like any of the theories that seem kind of crazy at first, it's also like, well, I mean, I know the one that I think is really like just belongs locked in a box that nobody should ever say again, or else feel so embarrassed if they do, is the people who say that if you turn the Torture Poets Department logo upside down. Have you heard this one?
No, I haven't.
It spells Cail, Cail, which isn't an English word, but that apparently in some language, like Finnish, maybe. I don't even know. It means reputation. And I'm like, that is not a thing.
So funny. People are, I love
You
that.
know what? I love that they just stretched their arms so far for that
Yeah.
reach. Like, that's
Yeah, they did. They got ready
I was
for it.
picking up the CD being like, is there, but the logo isn't actually on the CDs.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
And
here it is.
and if you play the album backwards, it also just plays Rep TV.
Yeah.
If anybody could write an album that backwards would be a different album, it would be Taylor.
Yeah.
That's true. She has the first like palindrome song. Like she
Mhm.
would do it.
She could
Yep.
do it. She
Yeah.
has that power.
She
Mhm.
does. So tell us about your like Swiftie history. Like when did you
Oh.
get into her music?
This is
Start
the
there.
best question. No one has ever asked me about my Swiftie history, so
Oh,
I'm
no.
very thrilled. So I didn't like actively listen to her. Like I would hear her songs on the radio during like the Fearless era, you know, everybody knew Love Story and You Belong With Me. And I remember thinking like, oh, I like this song, Love Story. But like I wasn't like now I'm gonna look into her music or anything. But it was in the Speak Now era that she came out with, as you guys know, Dear John was on that album. And I, at the time, was a huge John Mayer fan. And so I was like, oh, she wrote this song about John Mayer. I'm going to listen to it. And then like was never a John Mayer fan ever again, basically. but but also I just was shocked. Like I literally think that song changed my life because I mean it introduced me to her work in like a very real way. But it was like it was just speaking to like my experience that I was going through at the time. I mean, I wasn't 19 years old. I'm like 5 years older than her, but that was part of it. I was like, how is this like I'm in my mid-20s, this girl, she's writing as a 19-year-old in this, like how is she like expressing exactly what I feel? And I was just so blown away by that I got the rest of the album and then loved that. And then ever since it's just grown more and more and more. And for a while it was like sort of a thing where I'd be like, oh yeah, like my favorite musicians are like Florence the Machine, which so I was really thrilled during
You were
with
the Easter egg all along.
yes. And I'd always say like, yeah, my favorite's Florence the Machine. And then I'd be like, and I also really like Taylor Swift. And like I'd be really, but now I'm like, ever since maybe uh maybe the Lover era, I have just been like unapologetically because there's nothing to apologize about because she's a genius. But just like the most in your face Taylor Swift fan.
I'm exactly the same. Like in terms of, I was like a closeted. Oh, sorry, my dog is freaking out. But yeah, I also was like, not like afraid to like Taylor Swift, but like you used to get like not picked on, but people would like look down on you for it. But I feel like by the time Lover came around, it was like Taylor started acknowledging it. So then it was like, wait, if she's already worked through this, then I can
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And it was like I mean, this was such like a me thing that it was like my hang up that I thought of myself as like, I have such great musical taste. And my musical taste is like people who write these like are just really great songwriters. And like a lot about the lyrics and all that. And so like I knew that's why I loved her from the very start. But like publicly, I don't think she had that perception yet. Whereas now a lot of people, even if they're like Taylor Swift haters, they know that she's thought of as a great songwriter. And so it was just me being stupid, like like letting that societal perception of, oh, she's just a little girl who writes about her breakups, like override the fact that I was like, no, she's speaking my truth.
No, I get it. Because it was like, if you said you like Taylor Swift, you then had to like have your pre-prepared argument of like
Yeah.
why people should respect Taylor Swift because it would just automatically be like, oh, I like Taylor Swift. And they're like, oh, so you just listen to breakup songs? It's like,
Yeah.
I
Gosh.
got to the point where I just be like, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I do. I just listen to breakup songs all the time.
But also she writes things that we all feel that we've all been through in various different ways, but she's able to put them into words into ways that are just really like universal and relatable.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that opportunity to one, feel like you're not alone, and then
Yep.
also this catharsis of like being able to feel understood and understand your own emotions through hers is
Mm-hmm.
so important.
Yeah, and it's that like, so I was, well, and am, but I was a creative writing teacher for 12 years at an arts high school. Now I teach like an online course, but and like the thing you have to drill into young writers' heads at the beginning is like, because they always think that their pieces are going to be more relatable the more general and vague they make it, so people can put their own experiences into it. And I always had to say, like, no, it's the more specific you make it, the more universal it becomes. And like, I think she is just like the perfect depiction of that, perfect like showcase of that. Even like even the line that people are making fun of on Tortured Poets, like you smoked and ate 7 bars of chocolate, we both declared Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist. Like,
You know what? She was right. We've all been there.
yeah, exactly. Like, have I said that exact thing? No, but like it puts you right in that scenario. You think of the like weird conversations you've had where you're like so suddenly passionate about declaring that somebody should be whatever. And like it is the hyper specificity of that line that does that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's definitely like the couple of lines that people are getting like tripped up on Tortured Poets is like that one and the 1830s
Mhm.
one.
I
Yeah.
am a defender of that line
I think I Hate It Here is such a good song. It's
Yes. And
supposed to
it's,
be kind of a bad line. Like that's the point.
because she
yeah.
immediately says, like, now the vibe's ruined. Like, I brought
Hmm.
down the vibe.
Yeah, like I just made it awkward,
Mhm.
and that's totally relatable too. Like when you say the thing that is like, oh, now this isn't so fun anymore. But it's also like it would be one thing if she was like, I picked the 1830s because it seemed like a really great time, but that's not what she's saying at all. Like she like I don't know. It just seems like the reading comprehension skills are not there in any form anymore.
Mm.
I know yeah. I've seen some really bad takes on Tortured Poets so far, but I don't, what's your favorite song as of now? I know personally mine keeps changing every day, so
Yeah. Untortured Poets.
yeah.
Oh God, it's so hard.
There's just so many of them.
I know. I think right now it's Peter. Um, which was like in the first couple listens, it was one of those that kind of like glommed together at the end of those like sort of slower songs. But I just love that one so much. And then I saw this TikTok of somebody um talking about the story of the actual story of Peter Pan and like all these references within it that I didn't understand because I only know like the Disney version that I saw years and years ago. And so that just made it richer for me. And I think it's just like I think it sounds beautiful, like melodically. I think her voice is incredible on it. I think her voice on Torture Poets is just like overall the best it's ever sounded across the board. But yeah, I think right now that's my favorite. But it'll change in 2 minutes. It's so hard. What about you guys?
I'm a prophecy
Mm.
lover.
Yeah.
I can't stop listening. Every single time I listen to it, I end up listening to it like 4 or 5 times because I
Hmm.
listened to it once and I'm like, actually I didn't listen to that hard enough. I have to restart. And then I'm like, I think I can enjoy that one more time.
Yeah, I can't possibly choose. I think the one that affected me the most upon first listen was also Peter, as Kat knows. Kat was next to me.
Yeah,
Um,
I made a really sad interpretation
yep.
that made every person in tears.
Well, and also the end of that song just being the same lyric repeated over and over again, it makes you feel something. Even if you don't know what you're feeling, you're like, I feel
Yeah.
emotional about this.
Yeah.
It's so impactful.
We also stayed up late to
Oh
listen
yeah.
to it when it dropped. And after the first album, we ran out of wine and switched to tequila. So the second half of the album was a lot more crying, a lot more
It hit
intense.
even harder. Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
oh yeah. I'm into the albatross today.
Mm.
I am, and I can do it with a broken heart, girly.
Hmm.
I think it's very funny how usually Kat likes the more upbeat songs and I'm more into the slow, sad stuff. And we really flipped for this album,
Yeah.
Mm.
which is strange. It might just be the place I am in my life right now. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're just
That's
bopping along.
Yeah.
I had been thinking the past few days, like, oh, I think the Albatross is like maybe this has a different ending than what this is going to sound like, but I would say I think the Albatross is my least favorite song on the album. And then today, something about it clicked while I was listening, and I was like, nope, I actually really love it. And I think that has happened. Like I felt that way about I looked in people's windows too at some point where I was like this is my least favorite, and now I love that one. So that keeps happening. And there's honestly like not a song on it that I don't love. And it's all just about like little grades of what I like a little bit less. But yeah.
Yeah, I started, so over the weekend I went to surprise one of our friends who was getting engaged. She's actually the one who introduced me to your books.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm gonna just judge this journey by how many times I can listen to Tortured Poets. It was like a 10 Tortured Poet listen travel weekend. But you know what? I know all the words now.
Yeah.
I listened to like literally nothing else while I drove and then trained and then
And
yeah.
how were your feelings by the end of that?
I cried to thank you, Amy. That's where I was at by the end of that journey. I also cried to the alchemy every single time that
Oh
it
yeah.
came on because I was so excited for my friend that was getting engaged that I was like,
Oh.
it's so beautiful. They're so in love.
That one, in the context of the album, when you're listening to
Mhm.
all these sad, devastating songs and you get to something really special and really happy and joyous,
Yeah.
I always get chills listening to The Alchemy.
Yeah. I feel the same way about So High School. Because especially because it follows what I feel is the saddest song on the album with How Did It End.
Oof.
And and like How Did It End is so sad, like lyrically, but also the music is just so heavy and really sad. And then it goes into like the happiest thing you've ever heard in your life. And that also has this like really great like early 2000s nostalgia vibe to it. And I'm like of course Taylor Swift does this. She's like,
Yeah,
let me
it's
put
like
my saddest
I
song
think
next to my
on
happiest.
Lover, she did like Soon You'll Get Better followed by False God, which like is just the or maybe it's either followed by or like it's I think it might be False God, Soon You'll Get Better, and then You Need to Calm Down. So it's just like we're
All
just
over.
on
It's
a
a
journey.
whiplash of vibes.
Exactly. She loves a little whiplash moment.
Yeah.
It's a whiplash, but at the same time, I don't think she's ever had an album with a more coherent start to finish story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
than Tortured Poets.
Yeah, you can really just see the whole vision of what's
Hmm.
going on in her life, and that's very cool. And that, I mean, I usually listen to songs out of order, but I've been listening to this album just top to bottom in my car. It's been
Yeah,
great.
it's so good.
Yeah, it is really interesting how it tells a story. And I feel like Fortnite being the first song in the album really sets it up really well for like a lot of the themes that are on the album. So I think that was so smart that she put that first. And like that's another thing that bothers me because that's a thing that a lot of critics have been saying that like it doesn't sound different enough. It's too cohesive and that like whatever, she's not growing musically. And it's like one, why does she have to grow musically like why does she have to reinvent herself every single time? Like that's what the Eras tour proved, that like this is sort of ridiculous how the whiplash between the eras on the tour is because like she had to reinvent herself to stay in the game, and like that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, it's extremely entertaining and I love it, but like so like that criticism, and then like saying like the songs all sound the same, like they don't all sound the same, but they do have a cohesive sound, and it's like that's what an album is. Like I don't even understand it, and I just think they wouldn't be saying that about any man's album. They
That's
wouldn't
so
say
true.
your songs have too similar a sound. Like yeah, it's called the vibe of the album.
Yeah, it's called like being sonically cohesive is something you go for and not like
Yes.
that's a goal. Yeah, that's so interesting because I know somebody was asking like that hadn't listened yet like what the sound was and I was like, well, it's kind of like Midnight's and Folklore Evermore like all merged together. It's like the
Hmm.
lyricism of Folklore Evermore, some of the musical elements and then like some of the more poppy stuff from Midnight's.
Yeah.
But like yeah, reinventing the wheel is I mean, she has lyric, it's me, I rise up from the dead, I do it all the time, but
Hmm.
like it gets old. Like you
Yeah.
can't do that over and over again. That's like I mean, it's 31 songs.
Yeah.
Let the woman rest.
And at this point, like in what other ways can she reinvent herself? Like, I mean, I don't think we necessarily need a rap album by Taylor, though. I mean, I
Yeah,
always,
exactly. Like what genres has she not covered that she
yeah,
can cover? Like she's done country. She's done kind of like a poppy punk, like light pop punk vibe with like Speak
mhm,
Now. She's done
yeah.
full pop. She's
The
done
only thing that I think I
folk.
really want is rock. I really want her to do
That's
a rock
true.
album because of those moments on the 1989 tour when
Yeah,
she had that sound. Like, I think she'd do so good at it.
she
And
would.
I think about like Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish and how everyone wanted more of that sound.
Yeah.
Collab moment between them. Just saying.
Yeah.
We're putting that there. We're manifesting.
We are
Yeah.
manifesting. So we also wanted to ask about how if Taylor has inspired your work in any way. Like I know a couple of her songs I've listened to and it's inspired me to start writing other songs or stories or things like that. Or if you have any songs that you listen to while you write by Taylor.
Yeah, I always have like it started out kind of unintentionally and now I'm being intentional about it, but I always have like a Taylor theme song for each of my books.
That was one of the questions I wrote down. You read
Oh,
it.
so for my first book, The Winter Sister, I felt after I wrote it like, oh, this is so like haunted. Um, and then the second book, Behind the Red Door, is the last time, but in a different relationship sort of way than the way she's talking about it in the song. And then my third one, The Family Plot, is Seven. And then my fourth one, Thicker Than Water, is The Great War. And then the one that I have coming out next year that I just turned in my revisions of, I'm still debating because I had this whole playlist that I would play of just Taylor songs while I was like taking a walk and thinking about it because she has so many that fit with it and inspired it. And in fact, in my acknowledgments, I say thank you to Taylor Swift, whose love songs inspired this thriller, or whose love songs helped me write this thriller. But I think it's I Can See You is the theme song for that one.
Oh, I'm so
Or
excited to read it.
or a creepy version of You Belong With Me. And in fact, it's broken up, the book is broken up into two parts. And the first part is You Belong With Me. And the second part is Love Story. And neither of those are meant in a sweet way at all.
Sounds very
Wow.
derogatory.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, congratulations on handing in the revisions.
Yeah,
Thanks.
edits they are what they are.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
It was
currently
actually
in
like
edit, so I'm like, ugh.
yeah, I had on my last book, the one that came out in 2024 last year, the revision process was like so horrible. I literally had to rewrite the whole book and take it down to the studs and like basically my editor was like, okay, we're gonna keep the characters and we're gonna keep the premise and everything else has to change, the whole plot. And I had 3 months to rewrite the whole thing.
Oh,
Whereas with this one that I just turned in, it was like her notes were like, I mean, not like notes are never easy, but in comparison, it was just such a breeze that I almost feel like I've like didn't revise it because of the traumatic experience that the last one was. So normally when I hand in a revision, I'm like, ah, but this time I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's done.
I mean, at least it was easier time.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
Thicker Than Water is so good. I have like an hour left in the audiobook right now. It's so funny. When Abby walked in earlier, I had my headphones on. I was listening to it, and it's like, they're like, I'm not gonna say what the plot point I was at, but there's a confrontation happening, and Abby, like, I was by my front door because I was about to take the dog out, and Abby walked in, and I like startled. I was like, oh God, what's happening? And she's like, oh yeah, I knew you were coming over.
well, thanks for listening to it.
Yeah, we were so excited
Yeah.
to speak with you today.
Yeah.
So
Oh. Well, this is like the highlight of my whole week, just getting to like talk about Taylor Swift and like say it's like for work. I'm like doing a podcast as an author, but really a Swiftie.
it's both.
We
Yeah.
joked that we started the podcast so that we'd have like an hour a week to hang out and talk about Taylor Swift. So like that's it works.
Yeah. And honestly, it's been such a blessing for that because as an adult, it is so hard to maintain friendships and have
Mhm.
like regular times where you see people.
Yeah, that's so
So
true.
I've definitely been plugging. People are like, "Oh, you guys hang out so much." I'm like, "Have you tried starting a podcast with your friend? Because that's worked really well for us." Have you been to any Taylor concerts?
Yes. I went to 1989 and I went to Eras Tour. And I was at where are you guys located?
We're in upstate New York. We
Okay.
went to the New Jersey show. Or one
Okay.
of them.
I was at the second night Gillette show. That was the insane rain show
Oh,
where she's like wiping off like piles of water off of her piano that then broke the piano the next night. And then I got sick for 2 to 3 months after that. But it was fine because I always got to say like Taylor Swift got me sick.
yeah, it was in the
Did you
name of
do you have
Taylor.
any like good surprise songs at least to get you through?
Well, it was really strange because that was the night that she was like, which like is now a clip that's been seen so much in the wake of everything. When she was like, yeah, I just like I've never felt happier in my
That
personal
was your
That
show?
was your
yeah,
show.
everything that's just makes sense. And so I just like I'm gonna play this song because it's a lot of happy memories. And then it's question, and everybody's just like, what is going on? And then it's sort of like okay, well, that's her answer to everybody's comments on her dating Maddie. And then it was like, oh, question is about Maddie. I had totally thought it was about Harry Styles, but okay, I need to recalibrate everything now.
That's crazy.
What surprise songs did you guys have?
We had Holy Ground and False God.
Oh my God. Oh, this is
Yeah,
such
we
a good
lost it.
pairing.
We
Oh my
were,
God.
I know, because like we were driving to the show and I was like Google searching like Taylor Swift songs where she mentions New York. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh my God, what if she did this? And I just said like every single song. But then later I was like, I guessed it right. I mean, I also
Yeah.
guessed 10 songs wrong, but two were right. So
I mean, decent odds.
Yeah. That's such a good pairing. My friend that I went to my show with, at his wedding, I did a reading and the reading was Holy Ground, without the little part about like, and I guess we fell apart in the usual way. We just kind of snipped that out. But it was funny because he went the next night as well with somebody else because he's just like a lucky bastard, I guess. But and he had this t-shirt made because he's an architect, and so he had a t-shirt that said, I am an architect, I'm drawing up the plans. And so he wore it the first night and we were under like 75 ponchos, so like nobody saw anything and it didn't matter anyway. But then the next night she played I Think He Knows, and
she
he
saw the
like
shirt.
yeah. And I was like, what are the like it's such a I feel like I mean, I don't it's weird to say that any Taylor Swift song is a deep cut because they don't feel that way to me, but like it feels like a deep cut to anybody who's not like really, really into her. And I was like, what are the chances that you get your song at it?
That's crazy.
Wow. Eras Tour was like one of the most wildest experiences. I
It was
mean,
insane.
it was a full day's worth of energy.
Hmm.
Yeah, we also did the like after the show, we're gonna sit in the car and wait for all the traffic to go. And we watched like Spider-Man for an hour and a half and like ate pretzels. And then every like 30 seconds, we'd be like, "Do you remember when we saw Taylor Swift?" I say we. I just say that after every single concert I go to, I annoy everybody that I'm with for a solid like 3 hours afterwards because I'll just be like, "Do you remember when we saw that artist that we just saw 20 minutes ago? That was crazy."
But did you get, because I had the experience that I know a lot of people talked about where the next day it felt like I hadn't seen her and like I couldn't remember so much of it. And like I knew she'd performed this and she performed that, but I had no memory of it happening.
Yeah, I whenever I go to concerts, I do a voice memo on my phone of the entire concert
Oh.
because then I don't have my phone out like taking videos and pictures and I get really hung up on like trying to frame things correctly and then I like
Hmm.
am not listening. I'm just like the composition of the shot. So I have a recording of our whole concert, which like thank God because otherwise
Mm.
no memory of anything.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Gosh, I don't remember so much. I like know I would know I was there and I know it happened.
I know. I remember like three like I have like a few distinct memories of the night and that's like it. I'm like, I
Yeah.
remember us screaming, "She's fucked in the head" during Champagne
Oh, sure.
Problems.
Important.
I remember freaking out during Holy Ground and
Mhm.
False God, and like yelling facts because Ice Spice came out at our show because that was when
Oh yeah.
Karma remix came out, and we'd been making fun of it all day, because facts.
Yeah.
So we just kept saying facts to everything. That's the other thing I remember.
Oh yeah, because she dropped You're Losing Me and the Karma remix
Yeah.
like the day of our show.
That's so much happening at once. That's a lot of information.
Yeah, we were like listening to You're Losing Me on like illegal podcast things on Spotify on the way, and we're just like, what is she doing? What's going on?
Yeah. Just
That
so
that
wild.
was such a like I don't know. It was just so smart when she dropped that song, I thought, because everybody was like, this breakup, Joe, like what happened? And she's just like, well, here it is. And then when Jack Antonoff was like, actually, this was written like 2 years ago, and then everybody's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Um, just a lot of turmoil with that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much turmoil.
And I'm so excited for whenever we cover How Did It End and connecting that to You're Losing Me, because like,
Oh,
oh, I'm so excited for that. That's gonna be painful in a
yeah.
fun way.
True. Yeah, I still don't really remember because I saw the Eras Tour movie once in theaters. We
Mhm.
went to see it. And that I was just like, wait, she played like I saw this live? Like I don't
We didn't see
remember.
Long Live, so it
Oh,
wasn't quite.
oh man. I know. We were both
I know,
heartbroken that
yeah.
we didn't get to see Long Live.
Yeah, I didn't have that either. Um, but I'm glad that the Eras Tour movie exists too, because it's also just like I do remember like there was so much going on at once. Like it was like the visuals on the screen are really cool. What the dancers are doing is amazing. And what she's doing is really cool. What's happening on the actual stage with the visuals is really cool. And I just remember being really overwhelmed trying to take it all in. So I'm really glad that we have the movie so that you can like be like, well, this time I'm gonna just focus on the dancers or whatever. And just like there's just so much that and like the costumes and it's just a visual and audio feast that I'm like my brain cannot handle all of that at
Mhm.
once.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of like the forgetting is just because you're trying so hard to like remember all of the different things that like
Yeah.
none of it got through.
Yeah.
What do you think of the theories that she's adding tortured poets to the set?
I mean, I really thought she wasn't going to, just because like this doesn't feel like it felt like she was doing the Eras tour to kind of wrap up like this is what I've done. These are the albums I'm re-recording, well, some of them, and now like everything I do in the future is like separate from that. It felt like to me, and Tortured Poets being one where she didn't like reinvent the wheel of herself, like also felt like, oh, it doesn't really fit in with the Eras tour thing. But so I thought she would only do it as like surprise songs. But I mean, I saw that video that she posted that had the behind the scenes rehearsal footage, and it definitely seems like there's new things in there. Like the dancers had canes and top hats that they don't have in any other song. It seems like she's standing against something that says TTPD in it. So I think she is going to. I'm just so interested in like how is she going to fit it in and what is she removing in order to fit it in,
Yeah, 'cause there's no
and
way she
where
can
will
make
it
the set
go?
any longer.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and so I mean, I'm someone who I don't usually watch like the whole live stream on TikTok or anything, but I definitely go in and watch when it's like supposed to be the surprise song time. But this time I'm definitely gonna probably try to watch, because it's in Paris, I think is where she's going
Mhm.
next.
Yeah, it's playing at
Uh,
like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
yeah,
Time is when the concert starts. I'm like, great, I'll just cancel meetings and I'll just like
yeah,
pop my phone up next to my computer and I'll
yeah.
be working and I'll
It's
watch the
better
whole
than
stream.
like when it's like somewhere where that it's like 2 in the morning our time, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'll just have to like figure out what happened tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I'm really interested. What do you guys think about that?
Well, one thought that I have is that the manuscript feels like such a definitive end song. And I
I
know
know.
it's not. Like she's obviously going to come back with more. She always does.
Hmm.
But it feels so very definitively like it ending with my story isn't mine anymore. Like it's
Mhm.
yours. You guys go have it, and I'm gonna go live my life. Like that's very much how it feels to me. And so revisiting the Eras tour, like I don't know, I feel like Tortured Poets just changed my perspective on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Tortured Poets, I saw a TikTok about this earlier, from I think Stephen Sullivan. He was talking about how like Tortured Poets wouldn't have existed without the re-records,
Mhm.
because you can definitely like, I mean, you can't scroll two videos on TikTok without seeing somebody comparing an older song to a Tortured Poet song,
Yeah.
because there's so many parallels. So it's like her revisiting her entire discography has like brought back, I think, a lot of stuff that she, even if it's not like she's not feeling the same, it is interwoven into the album. So I don't know. I feel like the manuscript is like a like end to Torture Poets and also to that like level of reflection, because
Mhm.
I mean, she's probably finished all of the re-records at this point and is
Yeah.
just like waiting to release them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope she adds it to the set list, even though I'm
Yeah.
sad, because we tried to get tickets to the Toronto shows and that
Uh,
did not happen. We had like six of us trying to get
uh,
all of us got waitlisted. So
just more Ticketmaster trauma.
yeah, we were on there for 5 hours.
Ugh.
Where the original drop was. We were like on the phone with each other, both at work. Like had my work laptop here and then like my
Ugh.
personal laptop here, waiting for the queue to move.
Mhm.
Oof.
Yeah,
And
I didn't get tickets the original time. I only had tickets to go because like 2 or 3 months before the show, this bookseller actually who has done like some events for me when I've had books come out. She was like, I know you really love Taylor Swift. We have an opportunity to get Taylor Swift tickets and we just don't like going to stadiums. Do you want them? And I was like, yes.
that's why you have to be obnoxious about loving Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
Then you
yeah,
can get Eras tour
exactly.
tickets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
And they
amazing.
were like super reasonably priced. It was like with fees and everything. And we were in like a lower bowl section. It was like 250 each. Whereas I feel like if
Wow.
we had gotten them in the original thing, that would have been like $700.
Yeah, the surge pricing was great. I mean, we
We
were
were
like,
really lucky.
yeah, I think ours were like 127
Oh, wow.
or
Like we
something.
were,
Yeah, there was one row behind us in the stadium.
Oh.
Like we were in the nosebleeds.
yeah, but we had a great view.
Yeah, we did, because we were kind of like in the back, like back corner, and the stage was here, so we could see everything going on.
Hmm.
I did like feel like when I danced too hard, I was gonna fall and die. But other than that,
I
great
I
seats.
felt it swaying. I felt like
Yeah,
the
because like
actual
stadiums
That's
are
so scary.
designed for like there to be some sway and some give.
Hmm.
And like I think it was during You Belong with Me, everybody was jumping, and I was just like, we're gonna
I
die.
had to
This is
sit down. I was
yeah.
so scared.
Because everybody in the upper bowl was just so excited. I was like, I am also there. What if we all just calm down just a smidge?
But if that's how he went down, that's how he went down.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Did you guys find, because when I saw 1989, I was not like one row behind me, but I was pretty far in the back. Did you guys find that the sound reached you like a little bit later than what was happening on the screens? Because I remember that happening. And so it would be like the what she was mouthing on the screen was always a tiny bit off from what I was hearing, and it was just pretty trippy.
Well, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't remember noticing it, but I don't know how much input I was actually getting to my brain
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. Like I think I also had a delay, so it was just
Yeah.
all like everything in there was just confused.
But that would make sense. Yeah, it was so loud. I was like, I'm glad that we're not closer to the stage, because like I had brought loop earplugs with me, but like I don't know if I didn't position them in my ears right or what, or if I was just singing along that loudly, but like all I could hear was myself. So I ended up taking them
Oh.
out. I went to see Olivia Rodrigo a couple weeks ago, and I like had the earplugs in the whole time because there were some teenage girls behind me that were working through some stuff. But yeah, it was
The earplugs thing was interesting because I wore them and my friend that I went with didn't. And one of his first comments when we waded through the swimming pool that was the parking lot afterwards and got in the car was he's like, I didn't expect her to sound so much like Minnie Mouse. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, she just sounded like Minnie Mouse the whole time. And I was like, I didn't like I kept thinking like how she sounded so amazing. And like I was especially thinking during Champagne Problems, like her voice was just so good. And we eventually figured out, like, we don't know why, but it was because he wasn't wearing earplugs and I was. Um, and so, but like I never heard anybody else say that. So, or maybe he just has weird ears.
I feel it's possible that like, because I mean, sound like it's so loud. Because I know every time I go to a concert, I have like the Apple Watch and it tells you when it's too loud. And it'll
Yeah.
be like, exposed more than 10 minutes at this volume will cause lasting damage to your ears. And I'm like,
Well, it's gonna be 3.5 hours, so shut up.
literally, I'm like, I'll put in the earplugs when I stop singing. Will I stop singing? No. If this is how it ends, this is how it goes.
Yeah.
It's all good. I know sign language.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. I had a tangent to go on, but I don't know if it's even like really relevant other than to me personally.
Tangent it up.
Yeah.
Well, because you were talking about how revisiting her previous songs made her feel things again as she was writing Tortured Poets, and that really stuck with me. And I think about narrative therapy a lot, and I've been thinking a lot about how therapeutic this process must be for Taylor as well.
Mhm.
I'm a graduate student in mental health counseling, so I work as a counselor. And so just thinking about how this someone mentioned the other day how impossible it would be for Taylor to find a therapist because she's so famous. It would be nearly impossible to be unbiased. And it would also be
Mhm.
terrifying for her to think that her deep thoughts could be leaked, you know?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that and thinking about how this whole process is like, must be terrifying and vulnerable, but also so therapeutic at the same time because her feelings are being validated by all of us. I mean,
Mhm.
some people do invalidate and criticize, and they always will, but uh, and I've been thinking about that so much lately because she is so vulnerable with her music.
Mhm.
And it's like a gift to us. And I really hope it's helpful for her too. What
Yeah,
is
I saw something somebody said that's kind of similar to that, but more so about it goes hand in hand with the Eras Tour as like a concept and the re-records, which I think like the Eras Tour is what it is because she's doing the re-records and like so she's like celebrating all those old albums again. But like um they were basically saying that the message that they're getting from this is like we don't have to be embarrassed of our previous selves. Like we don't have to cringe at our huge feelings that we once had. Like we can have had a 5 minute song about a guy and now years later it's a 10-minute song and like it means even more um and like I think that's really beautiful too, just like and I don't think, I mean, I don't know, she is the mastermind, but I don't think when she started this like, oh, I'm going to re-record, that it was that maybe even she knew like all the ways that this would reward her fans, and all the ways that it would kind of like thematically be very meaningful, because I think it was just like, well, I have to do this because my music was stolen. But I think it's just like such like a beautiful thing that then she also goes back and resurrects these. Like I can't imagine ever leaving Is It Over Now on the floor with 1989. Like I would have been like, listen to what I made, everybody needs to hear it. I also feel that way about the lyric. I think I made a TikTok about this, that about the lyric, I kept you, you kept me like a secret, but I kept you like an oath, on All Too Well 10-minute version. Like if I had written that at 22 years old, I would have never shut up about it. And like the fact that she did have all this incredible material, that thinking so hard about like making a song that was like easily digestible, and making an album that was like complete and like fitting in the parameters of what an album needs to be, and that doing these re-records she's been able to bring back that material, and that it's all like really good. It's just like, I don't know, I just it it's very moving, I feel like.
I love like thinking about the vault tracks and like Is It Over Now specifically. I remember listening to it and having the same thought of like, how could you not put this on the album? And
Mhm.
then I was like, everybody hated Harry Styles and Taylor Swift dating. I was in the One Direction fandom in like 2012 when that was going down. It was like a nuclear explosion. Like there
Mhm.
was, if she had put out something that even like vaguely implied blame
Mm,
on him
Yeah.
behind beyond like hints in other songs that she did, like it would have been nuclear.
that's true.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
think that revisiting these albums and re-recording them have been so life-changing for like the long-standing Swifties
Mhm.
because we get to experience these albums again and reflect on who we were when they originally came out.
Yeah.
Like Speak Now Girlies, for example.
Mhm.
I got to reflect on like this person's sitting right next to me in front of the Speak Now Taylor poster. It's fine. Well, 'cause I remember in what were we? Like we must have been middle school. No,
Yeah,
middle
I
school?
think Speak Now came out. We were in like 8th grade.
Like 13, 14 years old when it came out. And I remember Kat playing me songs like Sparks Fly
I
in my
mean, like,
room.
I'm sad, and I'd be like, "Have you considered listening to Sparks Fly by Taylor Swift?"
Yeah, and like so when it came out again and I was listening to it again now as an adult and just reflecting on like my
How right I
14
was.
yes, reflecting on how right Kat was, but also just who I was then, who I am now, relating to
Mhm.
different songs in different ways. It's just been
Mhm.
so incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like rereading The Hunger Games as an adult, and like
Mhm.
when you read The Hunger Games when you're like a teenager, you're like, "Yeah, everything Katniss does is so sound. I would do the same thing." And then you read it as an adult, and you're like, "Please stop making the kids kill each other. Why is this happening? Like, you can just have this not happen at all." Like, it's yeah. There's definitely some songs that I listened to when I was like younger that I was like, "Yeah, this is great," and now I'm like, I'm trying to think of one.
Was it Stay, Stay, Stay?
No, Stay, Stay, Stay is still a
Yeah, Stay, Stay, Stay has to be one of my least favorite Taylor songs. I'm
Yeah, that
sorry,
was
Stay,
we
Stay,
did
Stay.
an episode that was like our two least favorite songs, and usually when we cover a song, we end up liking it more because like
Mhm.
the deep dive, me and Stay 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 did not pass that test. Those were the two that just
It's not that they're bad songs.
No.
They're just not our favorites.
yeah.
Yeah. I always say that I would rather listen to like my least favorite Taylor Swift song than like most other songs in the world.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Ugh, I love Swifties. I just feel like we all understand each other on a deep level.
Mhm. Steep, slightly unhinged level.
Exactly. Yeah. The slight unhinging is what relates everybody.
Yeah.
Um and I was just thinking when we were talking about like the re-records and her like revisiting and like working through things. I know sometimes when like I'm writing plot lines, I'll put in like plot lines that like mirror things that I've gone through that I'm like working through, but not consciously, or like I'll write background characters of like people I don't like. Do you ever do that in your books where like you put in something that's like a variation of like something you've gone through, or like the
Thank you,
joke is
Amy.
always yeah, exactly. The
Thank you,
thank you,
Amy.
Amy, of it all.
Yeah, I did that I always say that every book I write is in some way like a metaphor for something that I've experienced. Like even like I have not gone through any of the like main things that my protagonists go through, thank God, because it's all chaos and horror. But like their journeys are all like in some way me being able to speak to certain experiences that I've had. And I feel that the most, I think, in the book that I just turned in that's coming out next year. And it's when I'm about to tell you what it's about, but let me explain what I just said. Because once you hear what it's about, you're gonna be like, what? So it's about a woman who becomes romantically obsessed with the husband of her heart donor because she had a heart transplant, even as rumors swirl that he may have had something to do with his wife's premature death. Now, I have not had a heart transplant or become romantically obsessed with my heart transplants that I don't have donor or husband. Um, but the whole book is like really talking about, well, in part, it's like the main character is pretty unhinged and like she's pretty stalkery. And you're kind of like, like, is she the danger or is he the danger? Like what's going on here? But a lot of it is speaking to what I felt like in my like mid-20s. Like it seemed like there was such a it felt like this like constant panic of like, if I'm single, like I'm always going to be single, like I'm never going to find somebody, and that would be the worst thing that could happen to me because the world is for coupled people. And so it's about like that fear that society places on us, I think a lot of times, that like you have to have a partner and like that's the way that you like become a functioning person of society, which is like bullshit. But so a lot of it is speaking to like my own like fears that I had at that time. And it's also, I keep saying like a lot of these things in the book are like my own worst romantic impulses in my like early 20s, but just like turned up times a million. And so like that was kind of therapeutic. And I got to like put in, because I would need like now and then like an example of a bad thing her ex-boyfriend did, or like a thing that showed that he was such an asshole. And I was like, I have plenty of memories to pull from. And so I would just put like my own little specific things in there that had happened to me. And I remember my editor flagging one and being like, I don't think that this feels real, like this would really happen. And I'm like, oh, it would really happen. So yeah, with this one, I definitely like went like putting in my little like, I'm gonna get you, you terrible guy from like 15 years ago that I haven't talked to since.
I get that. Like that's what being a writer is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about
Mhm.
writing really good books and then also airing your petty grievances in the book.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
It is narrative therapy. It is an
Mhm.
evidence-based practice. And you know what? And I love that. I remember once I wrote a story for NaNoWriMo and my mom read it. You know, my mom's my number one fan in terms of the stories that never see the light of day. And she was like, I love how this whole concept of the girl who can see ghosts is just about like being queer. And I was like, well, I didn't do that on purpose. But yeah, you're so right, actually.
I had one time in therapy when I was talking to my therapist and I was talking to her about a book that I didn't end up writing, but I was really into the idea at the time. And it was like a very thinly veiled um, representation of something that I had experienced. And I was saying, like, I really want to write this book because I think it would be so cathartic for me to get to like, you know, this person never saw like nothing bad ever happened to them, but something bad's gonna happen to them in this. And she's like, wow, so like writing is your therapy. And she was like so like she had just nobody had ever told her that sort of thing before, that writing can be therapeutic. And she was just like blown away. And I'm like, yep, that is exactly. I also
Mhm.
pay extra to have you give me therapy, but yes.
2 for 1. Like so they've never sat in a like creative writing 101 when everybody's just trauma dumping and changing the names.
Yeah. And people are crying during their workshops.
Yeah. I never cried during a workshop. I don't know, like the way that they worked at my college was you read your piece aloud and then you weren't allowed to talk until the end
Yeah.
of the critique, which honestly has made every other critical piece of anything that I've gotten in my entire life so much easier. Like I'm at work, I work in like marketing, and people be like, let me know if like my edits are too harsh. And I'm just like, somebody told me my poem sucked, like to my face, and I couldn't respond.
You couldn't say anything.
This is
Yeah.
fine. This is nothing.
Yeah, I can imagine writing and putting your writing out there and sharing it with people can have you develop thick skin. Like it's a really vulnerable thing, I think, to
Mhm.
publish something.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a weird thing that it does. Like you're used to the bad comments, and like I feel this now because like people continue to just tag authors in their negative reviews on whatever social media platform, and like so if somebody does that, it's like, okay, this isn't something I haven't seen before that someone says about my work. And like, so you didn't tell me something new, but it's still like, it still hurts every time because it's just like, I didn't need to see that. Like, I like, ugh. So it's
Yeah,
like
I've
you do
never
develop a
understood
thick skin,
tagging
but
authors.
also it
Like, what's the
stays
point of
really
tagging?
thin. Yeah, I don't, I've said that and somebody was like, well, don't you want feedback from your readers? Don't you want to grow as a writer? And I'm like, it's not your job
Yes,
to
but
help me
like,
grow. Like I have,
there's like professional editors
yeah,
that are like
yeah,
part of the process.
yeah.
Like, I
And
don't
if I
think
took
that
every
Joe from
reader's,
Illinois.
yeah, if I took every reader's idea, it would be the messiest book of all time. And plus, the book has already been published. So what do you want me to do? Like,
Sorry, guys, I had to do a reprint. I saw this really good TikTok.
that's like their goal.
Yeah.
They're like, redo the book, redo it. Well, it's so impossible to please everyone and
yeah.
to cater to everyone's interests. And if you try to do that, then you're not going to come up with something that's the organic thing that you want to create.
And it's like
Yes.
what you're saying before with the like students writing the super general thing because they think that'll be relatable. That's like if you want something that's gonna be criticized by no one, here's a blank piece of
Hmm.
paper. Like
Yeah.
you have to say about it. Like
And I think to bring this back to Taylor Swift, I think that Tortured Poets is like a really great example of like no longer trying to, like, I don't feel like she's trying to please anybody with this album, other than herself, and she knows that there's going to be a lot of people that it resonates with. um I think it's extremely personal to her, but I think on every other album she's had that there is an element of her wanting it to be like her best album to date and her like trying to prove something. And I feel like with this one, she's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna just suddenly adopt a totally new musical style. I'm going to do the kind of music I want to do, working with the two people I love to work with and feel most like creatively fulfilled working with. And I feel like that's what you have to do as a writer too, is just realize like you aren't going to please everybody. And there's a lot of people that don't like torture poets. And though I cannot relate to that, there it's true. And just like if you're proud of the work you put out, like that's really what matters, because nobody else. And I believe, like she has said, she's really proud of this album, and I believe she should, because it's like a masterpiece in my mind.
yeah, I think it's like sorry, I drank water wrong before, so I was just dying to like mic off. Um, still dying. It's fine. Um, yeah, I think Torture Poets, it's my new favorite album. I mean,
Hmm.
the Torture Poets sweater that everybody hated
I
on.
know, I'm
So plain.
jealous. I saw it.
I'm gonna be honest, it's even though it's very plain, I kind of like that it's plain.
Hmm.
But okay, album. You can tell my ADHD meds are wearing off. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's so good, and I think she kind of addresses the way that like too much media attention and too much of people caring. Like I just keep coming back to like how did it end?
Hmm.
Because she kind of frames it as like, ran into at the shops, like when you break up with someone and then everybody comes up and it's like, oh my God, like what happened? Blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Um, but like just imagining that on the scale of when her and Joe or even her and Maddie broke up, like the scale of that is insane. And like that bridge, I think, is like
Oh.
some of her best work ever because it's just like you want all of the like horrific details of how awful it was. Here you go.
Hmm.
Want me to say it once again with feeling? Oh, that was
Hmm.
the once again
Yeah,
feeling hits.
I was just gonna say that line, like, I feel like it took me a few listens before I really absorbed that line, and I was like she's right. Everything she's saying in this, she has already sung in some way, whether it was like a veiled thing, like, oh, this isn't about my relationship, but maybe we now can say it was, or just like in You're Losing Me, like she has gotten this point across, and now she's saying it again because you guys won't shut up, and um oh God. And then the sitting in a tree, DYING, is just like, oh.
And then in Dodge So High School afterwards. She's
Yeah.
like, dry your tears, guys. We're going to a football game.
Yeah. With the boppiest bop, where she rhymes Aristotle with Grand Theft Auto, which is like, some people are like, I can't believe it. That's so stupid. And I'm like, no, that is her brilliance. Like, that
Mhm.
is like, she is the queen of unexpected rhymes. And like, no one, like, Shakespeare wishes he could have rhymed Aristotle with Grand Theft Auto.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like I'm a big Shakespeare person. Obviously, my dog is named Shakespeare. Um, when we were listening to it in the Albatross when it's like a rose by any other night, I freaked out. I was so excited. Was there any like literary references that you picked up on in Tortured Poets that made you go like, "Oh, I see what you're doing there"?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, Now suddenly, like, literally every song has gone out of my head, and I'm like, I don't even know the album. Uh,
No, I don't even. It's an album.
yeah. I think just like there was a lot. I mean, I think that a lot of the album is very Sylvia Plath coded. Um, and I think Sylvia Plath would have had this whole album on repeat for a really long time. I don't know that there's like particular songs where she's like, oh, I'm now being Sylvia Plath, like in her persona, but if like it just has a lot of the vibes. And I have said for a long time, I've said that I think that Taylor Swift is like the Sylvia Plath of our time. because like of the confessional writing and the lines that just dig so deep in.
Yeah,
I
and
just
like
think
the unflinching like
yeah.
descriptions of things that just are so true.
Yeah. And Sylvia Plath had a lot of like unexpected pep sometimes in her pieces. Like they're so dark, and then there'd be like this like thing that seems kind of peppy, which is like when Taylor has like a really boppy song, but it's like the most devastating lyrics you've ever heard. So yeah, I just always think that there's so many parallels between them, and I felt like this would be her album for sure.
100%.
I love that.
Cool. I know you have cut off in a couple minutes.
I know, I wish we could do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I'll have you back next time she drops an album.
Absolutely.
Yes.
This was an amazing
Yeah, this was so
conversation.
fun. Thank you so much again for coming on.
Thank you so much. Like seriously, when I saw your DM inviting me, I was just like I didn't even read the whole thing. I just saw like Taylor Swift podcast, like yes. I was like, yes, yes. Oh my God.
Do you want to promo like socials or upcoming works or anything?
Sure. I am at Megan Collins Writer on pretty much everything. I'm no longer I have a Twitter, but I don't really use it much anymore, so don't even bother. And then I randomly got suspended from Facebook recently, so I'm not there anymore, but I'm on Instagram and Threads and TikTok at Megan Collins Writer. And then next year, my next book, Cross My Heart, will be out in February, but I know that that's a while from now, so people probably won't remember that.
You will.
We'll remember it.
Hey.
Pre-order it once it comes around.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Seriously, this was so much fun. And like I never get to just like talk about Taylor the way I want to talk about Taylor for like an hour straight. So thank you. That my husband's probably like, yes, like take this off of me for a little while.
Well, you're so welcome. That's what we're here for.
Yay. All right. Well, have a good rest of your night, guys. And
You
thank you
too.
again. Bye.
So thank you again to Megan for coming on the podcast. That was so fun.
It was so great. I mean, honestly, it was just so much fun to talk about Taylor Swift.
With another person
With
who
another
loves Taylor Swift as
Swiftie.
much as we do.
A writer, a Swiftie, like honestly just fit right into the vibe. So thank you so much,
Exactly.
Megan. That's all we have for today. But just a couple of little announcements. We sort of put on our story. We did put on our story. We asked, would anyone be interested in a Patreon? And some people would be interested. And so we're going to be launching our Patreon soon.
Yeah, we're thinking sometime in June it'll launch. So there will be more information in the next couple of weeks about the tiers and about like what's going to be available in each one, all of that fun stuff. So
Stay tuned for that because there will be some really cool stuff available and also opportunities for us to chat and hang out virtually.
virtually, sorry, you can't come to my house. It's messy. My mom said no.
But Taylor
But-
Swift said yes.
Taylor Swift said yes. Listen, Taylor, if you want to come over, honestly, why don't we meet out? Looking around my apartment, like,
We'll go to your favorite spot for dinner.
we'll fly to LA just for
I would fly to anywhere for Taylor Swift.
mood.
Anyway, so that's that. Feel free to leave us a review as long as it's 5 stars.
I think a review.
A review, if you will. We thrive on praise. And this is why Kat says this every week, because this is how I would say it. Anytime anyone DMs us, gives us any like nice little comments, we get super excited about it.
Or even just like send us a reel that you're like, somebody sent us a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reel once, and I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Send us, or like if you see a good like theory video, whatever, send it to us. We want to see it.
Absolutely. I mean, we just love interaction with you guys so much, which is part of the reason why we're going to have that Patreons for more opportunities for that. Other than that, is there anything else? Oh, do we have hint songs for next week? Oh, we said those in the last week's episode.
Yeah, so last week's hint songs are actually for next week because we shuffled some stuff around.
Surprise.
And
And that's that.
yeah. Crispy high five?
Crispy high five. I'm getting really good at left-handed high fives. Oh, okay, yeah.
Slay. All right, have a slay week, everybody.
Bye.